Good afternoon, guys, and welcome to Marshall's Minute. If you're new to the group, Marshall's Minute is something I started about a month ago because people wanted to know where I was at in my own journey beyond codependency, beyond the narcissistic abuse, beyond trauma, because those are the three things I really target, which all I break down to one type of trauma, which is really the discard trauma. So, last week's talking a bit about my own discoveries, and this week, because I'm trying to recall what I did talk about last week. But this week, the big prominent theme that's been showing up for me as I've been leaning into my own awareness about myself is, how do I know how to be me? And this is an interesting question for a lot of us because the habit of analysis is really getting in the way of discovery. And I'm big on analysis. I'm really good at it. It's partly what makes me really effective as a mentor and a leader for you guys, but it's also getting in the way of understanding my expression and specifically about being a leader. So when I ask this question to myself, how do I know how to be me? I can reframe it or add to it in a way that would expand it. So like, how would I know how to be me as a leader? Right? How do I know how to be me as confidence, or as love, or as curiosity, or as playfulness, or as a dad, or as a boyfriend, or a spouse, or as a single guy, as a business owner, blah, 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 blah. This is a question that helps me get in touch with my analytical side and then channel it into listening or leaning into awareness. Because guys, one of the big challenges we have is that we're disconnected. We kind of dissociate from our bodies. And our body is the container in which we find ourselves. Okay? And so if I'm looking to find out who I am as a certain thing, I need to lean into my body. I need to lean into my own awareness that's there and ask that question, what am I aware of that I am not acknowledging about being a leader or being confident or being whatever it is I'm going to be? And this is where I get in touch with the energy or my experience of being that thing. This is where we start to learn ourselves, learn who we are, discover ourselves. It's called embodiment. In the heal process, it's part of codependency confidence, there's a step called embodiment. And this is where we practice this experience with a very specific focus. Sometimes it's confidence, sometimes it's beingness, sometimes it's love, that kind of thing. But this week for me, it's been about who am I as a leader, and how do I know how to be me as a leader? Okay? So a lot of times what we do in life is we go out and we say, okay, I'm going to be a leader, for instance. Then I go out and I look at what people are doing as leaders. And then we emulate them. We mimic them. And that gets us in trouble because they're being a leader based on their programming, their experience, wherever they're at. And their experience, their expression of leadership, for instance, is not going to be congruent with ours because it's theirs, not ours. It's like we all have fingerprints, right? But they're not all the same. They're not identical to each other. They have a similar function. They perform the same function, but they have a uniqueness to them. And it's really important to understand that that uniqueness is what is valuable. The uniqueness, the difference is where our value can be expressed and understood by ourselves and by others. Because we get into that idea of value that we've been talking about all week, the value of, or the appreciation of existence. This is part of that. The appreciation of my existence as being a leader, for instance, lots of instances there, expands me into going, oh, this is the energy that comes up in my body. These are the behaviors and the choices and the thoughts that come up for me as I embody that energy, as I be it. And it's led me to communicate differently with you guys. It's led me to look at my business differently. It's changed the way I'm marketing it. It's changing the way I communicate. But it's also changing how I behave and how safe and open I feel about being a leader and being me. And it's actually activated a deep trauma. Because I grew up in a restrictive religious system that expected me to be conforming to its ideals. And that conforming caused me to shut down. It inhibited my ability to have contact with me, and then it trained me to look at myself as a danger, as a harmful thing. So me being me equals harm. And so my body reacts to me being me with great distress because it thinks it's going to be harmed because I'm being myself. It's a huge trauma. And a lot of us deal with that, especially coming from narcissistic systems or relationships. Our beingness, who we are, has been weaponized against us. And we got to heal that. So I'll actually be addressing that later today. But this question, this beautiful question, has helped me understand that I have a leadership energy in me that I need to get in contact with. So I've been exploring it a lot this week and how I express myself and what do I do, and then evaluating the results. What does this actually cause? What does this bring into my world? And it's been very enlightening because it's actually calming. Aside from the traumatic response, there's actually a deep calming in my body, and energy arises, and then I'm much more focused, much more relaxed, and much more competent. People are actually responding to me differently because of this energy and this approach I'm implementing. And it's really cool to see, because that's what embodiment's all about. We approach the world from a different energy. We're inspired by that energy to say, do, and be different things, and that changes the response we get from others in our reality. This allows us to discover ourselves and new roles in our lives, new opportunities, new relationships, new adventures. That's why embodiment is such a critical component in the heal process, and that's why it's a practice that I've implemented through the Rapid Heal system that'll be released here in September, as well as the Get Closure Now system. We actually do some embodiment work in TCT, in the closure technique that I teach in that right there, because becoming who we really are is essential to leaving the space of codependency and building our lives out from a place of whoever we choose to be beyond that codependency. So that's what I've been exploring this week. That's what's been expanding for me. So that awareness I started with about a month and 5 weeks ago has brought me to a place of, hey, who am I as a leader? Who are you going to be as this leader? And now I'm moving into that exploration. So I'm very curious what that'll be over the next week, and then I'll share that in next week's Marshall's Minute. So that's what's going on with me. This is what codependency looks like post-codependency. I would probably rephrase that. This is what life looks like beyond codependency, where we don't have to... I'm not worried about what other people think. I'm more oriented towards the idea, or to the reality of, hey, what do I think? What do I need? What's going on here? How do I meet my needs? How do I express myself in an effective way that is congruent with my own personal ideals of freedom, connection, effectiveness, and play? That's all what's coming in with this. It's really cool to watch the tools work and watch the system work when you're actually living it. So life gets a lot easier when we don't have the trauma in the way, when we're not dealing with codependent relationships, and when we've given up needing codependency to survive, and we are practicing that new set of confidence skills, and we're able to thrive through that based on our experience, not just on what we're learning. So that's what it's like. It's a lot easier. It's a lot more fun. It's definitely got its challenges. But when you have the tools, when you know what to do with those things, then life becomes pretty simple. It's not necessarily emotionally fun all the time, I'll tell you that. But it's worth it because you start getting richer and richer experiences, and you get more and more fulfillment with it. So keep it going. Don't let your hopelessness get in the way. Don't let your powerlessness get in the way. Don't let the victim get in the way. Allow yourself to lean into hope and to reach. And if you want guidance with that, feel free to reach out. Okay? Okay, guys, I appreciate you. And you guys have a great weekend. Okay? And remember that you're worth knowing, loving, and keeping. And I'll see you guys in next week's trainings on the codependent fantasy. You guys have a good day. Bye-bye.